So in my previous video I told you that I wanted to make Celtic knot designs, and I'm going to show you how I do them. First I start off by making strips, and I've made circles too, and it's basically a chain, and then over cord I do half double crochet, and I've used 60 thread and a 0.7 needle. So in the past I've made this little bag, and it's a pattern you can find on the internet if you just type in crochet Celtic knots, and I made that with number 10 thread. And then here's a handbag that I decorated with another Celtic knot square that I found on the internet. I'm not going to show how to do these because they are available online and the patterns belong to someone else. But what I tend to do with the Irish crochet lace is I make different types of borders reflecting Celtic knot themes. So one of them is the simple Plat. So I'll start by, I use my lace pillow, and it's the best thing to use because you can just stick pins in really easily. If you haven't got a lace pillow, if you can cover a piece of styrofoam, because this is just made out of styrofoam. They're not too expensive to buy on their own. I think they're about 20 euros each, and they are worth having. But you can get on without it if you've got something else you can stick things in easily. And then for the very simple edge, I just make a traditional Plat, and I just very carefully position. So you've got to be careful because they will turn, so you've got to make sure they stay flat, and then very carefully make a Plat. It's not as simple as just making a straight line, because if, let's say, I wanted to use this Plat as a top edge for the lampshade, I need to have a curve in it. As you can see, it's not a straight line. So what I do is I do a length, and then I transfer it, and at the same time, at the back of the Plat, I run a running stitch with the cotton I make crochet with, and I just secure each individual knot, and then I slowly just make it along the curve of the top, so that then it'll lie really nice. If you just did a straight line and then try to bend it, it's not going to work, it's not going to flow properly. So you are going to have to do it on this curve. You could pin this to the pillow and do it that way, but you do need to secure each Plat with a little stitch to make sure it doesn't slip. I make all my bits in this length. The main reason is it's easier to work with. You're not got to, if I had to make one as long as this, first of all, you must probably need more than what's there, so you'd need maybe 1.5 yards of this ribbon, and then you've got the problem of manipulating it and manoeuvring it. Whereas if you use short bits, when you come to the end of one, you can make a little seam to the next one, and what I tend to do, I'll hide it behind another one. So if you have one overlapping the other, I'll make sure that the seam is behind that overlap, so you can't see it. Another thing to take into account is there's a good side and a bad side to these strips. So you need to carefully check before you lay them out that they're all pointing the same way. So for example, you could do them with the bad side up and then use a little running stitch along to secure it. The next one I use, and I've used it in quite a few works, is an open plate. So again, I secure the tops. And then with this, it's the same as that plate, but it's an open one, so you very carefully make a plate, and you're going to have to very gently lay it out. So and then what you do is you pin it down, so you make it as wide as you want it to be. So you need to see how wide you want it to be. And what I then do, I again pin it into shape. And I secure it. So this little knot in the thread, I would make sure it was covered if I was doing it properly yet. So basically I'll do the plait and then I'll pin it down. And then again I will secure so it takes a little bit of time arranging it and getting it right. But what I'll do is once I decide what I use, I will make a line across the top here so I know exactly how wide it needs to be. And then I make it, and then again I have to adapt it to the curve. So as you can see, these are not too difficult to do, they're just very, very fiddly. You could spend hours sorting things out and getting it right. So I'm not very happy with that. It's not coming out the best. I'll try again. This time I spend when I'm designing something is just very laborious in some ways, but it also gets you, you can try out ideas and design something new, because one of the things that happens with Irish crochet, people tend to make motifs and then they're stuck with finding something to make with their motifs. Also, when I show people what I'm doing, I don't expect them to do exactly as I do, but to just use inspiration, my work as inspiration, and to try something themselves. So that's more or less how that would work. Now, the next step is the hardest, and that is when I design a Celtic knot that's got various patterns in it, and I'll show you how I go through that. So this one is 2 circles and 4 threads, and they weave themselves in and out of each other. Now, the basic rule with Celtic knots is you go over one, under another, over one, under another, and it has to follow. So each time you take a thread, it'll go under one, over one, under one, over one, whatever, along its path. So one of the things I've done is I've color coded them so that I can see what I'm doing. And what I do is I take my lengths, so I need 4, and what I do at the very end, I colour code them with my pen. So this bit's going to be cut off in any case, so it's no problem, and I'll just colour code it so that I can keep track of it. So I've never done this particular one before. It's one I've just designed, and I made some rings. I made one that was a bit too small, so what I tend to do, I'll try various sizes and then decide which one is the right size. So what I do as well when I'm working, when I'm making these kind of things like circles, all these kind of things, I find something on my desk that's got the right length, and then I'll measure the thread or the chain off on that. So let's say I'll check this, I'll use this cushion maybe, and then I know as I'm crocheting along it's got to be that long, and I just work so they're all more or less the same length. For this I used the edge of my mobile phone, so that was exactly the length of the edge of my mobile phone. So I make a chain, measure it, and then I put the half double crochet on top with the cord. Also, when I do the circles, I do 4 plain and then 2 in 1 chain. So 4 plain, 2 in 1 chain, so all the way around so that it lies flat. So now we'll start this difficult one. So I'll pin, I'll cut this edge off, it's a bit too long. So this could be a total failure, this could look absolutely horrible, I've got no idea. It's the first time I'm trying it, I just designed it on paper, but I thought I'd take you along on the journey. Again, I'll be putting the joint under another seam. So we need 4 lengths, and I look on my drawing. This is the first one, so pin it in. Oh, I'll take the ones on my colour coded ones. So I'll take my red one. And I look on my drawing and it passes under. So I'll slide it under. And it ends up in over here. And this time I look on my drawing again and it goes over. I'll take my second one, it's yellow. And this is the yellow one. And that one goes over. So we've already got the right sequence. So one under, one over. And again, it goes across, but this time it goes under. So again, I turn it flat. The next one along is the orange one. So under, over, so this one will be under again. So this one was under, this one will be over, this one will be under again. Put a die here. Give it a bit of a bend. This a bit of a bend. As you can see, it's a lot of fiddling, it's a lot of trying. It's all trial and error. So this one comes here. So again, we've got under, over, under, over. And now we have the last one. Where's it gone? That one was under, so this one will be over. So this one will be under. So it's gone over here, so it'll go under here. So you get an idea of where I'm going with this now, although I do want a bit more of a bend in it, so I might make these rings a little bit bigger. Then again, I want to see how wide it is before I put it all together. So we've done the first part of the knot. See, this is how I draw it out for myself, and this is the second part. So I'm going to first cross, no, the two outer ones I'm going to do first. Now the two inner ones. So again, we have to follow the laws of over and under, and this one went under there, so it's going to go over here. So now we look again, it's gone over here, so it needs to come under here. And then that one's not done yet. So it's gone again. So I'll follow it again. Under, over, under, over. So that's worked right. Now I do the next one. That one was under, over, again under, as you can see, it's all very fiddly. And again we end up here. So that's the second part of it, and now we can start on the third, which is another ring. So you can see how the pattern is developing. This one's going to go over. So once I've decided if I like this pattern, I'll be drawing it out along here, and I'll be putting in guidelines. So I'll be marking where there needs to be a circle, where the center is of the middle motif, and then where the next circle is, and I'll do it all around. And on top of that, I also have to take into account that I want it to continue on both ends. There shouldn't be a break between them. So the way I do that is by just very gently changing the dimensions as I need to. So this one is going to go under. Again, you need to make sure they're not twisted. Now this one, under, over, under. So again, under, over, under, over, under, and then over. And this one now, again we follow the rule. There it goes under, here it'll go over. Under. Over. And here it'll go under. So this is just to get an idea of whether I like it or not, and I do like it. I think it would make a nice border in the sense that I want to make it a 1970s look, and I think that this will do. So when I make this, I'll be again putting a little stitch into each place where they overlap. I'll also be arranging it so that the joints end up under another one. As you can imagine, making something this length is going to take quite a bit of patience to lay it out, so it could be a day or two's work really to do it right and to make it look nice. So I hope this inspires you to have a look at these things for yourself, and that you've enjoyed watching me make this. What do you think yourselves? Do you like the way it looks? Alright, it's only just a trial run. This is not the way it's going to be look finished. But I just wanted to try my idea out of these two different knots. So my idea is to put this on the edge at the bottom, and at the top I'd make a fine plait, a very fine plait, but not one that's closed, most probably one that's open, because one of the ideas I've got is I'll have the plait along here, and then I'll drop a length from the plait and make a small knot motif hanging off it, and so I'd have 2 or 3 of those. Maybe I'd have 2, one at either end, so that'd be one, and then one in the middle, and then use the panel in the middle for the flowers. So I'm looking forward to your comments. You might think it looks terrible. I don't know. I do like it. I like the creative process. I think trying things out, failing, trying again, you overcome your difficulties, and it does make you feel stronger. And also, what you're doing is original. Nobody else has done anything like it. I've always been attracted to Celtic motifs. I look at the Book of Kells, and I look at the drawings in it, and very often I've tried to imitate it in Irish crochet, and I've not succeeded. It's easier to make flowers than to make animals, that's for sure. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I thank you for watching.